Hi there, it's Judith and Desjardins in Santa Monica, and I thought I would catch you up on what's been happening with me over the last couple of months because I haven't really made too many videos. If you recall, I was diagnosed with stage 1 pancreatic cancer after my surgery on October 23rd, 2020, and at that time I had 40% of my pancreas removed, 100% of my spleen removed, and 8 lymph nodes. And it took me almost 2 months to recover from my major surgery, and then in January 4th, 2021, I started chemotherapy as an outpatient at an oncology clinic in Santa Monica. And the drug that I received was Gemzar, and I had 8 rounds of Gemzar between January 4th, 2021 until my 8th infusion was in May of 2021. At that time, after CT scans, they determined that I had no cancer in my body. That was the good news, but the disappointing news was that I had developed some blood clots in both of my lungs, in the lower part of my lungs, and I had to start Eliquis, which is a blood thinner to prevent having complications from pulmonary emboli. After I started the Gemzar, I went to my pulmonary doctor, and he recommended me having a series of tests at UCLA Pulmonary Lab. 2 of the tests were measuring my oxygen saturation at sea level, and it was determined that I had between 95% and 98% saturation at sea level. The 3rd test that I had to take was a high altitude simulation test because I wanted to be able to fly to my home in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which is at 7,200 feet. So I took this high altitude simulation test where they actually simulate an 8,000 foot altitude, and I was crushed that I did not pass that test. At the beginning of the test, when I was at normal elevation, my oxygen was at, I think, 97. As soon as they increased the altitude in this lab to 8,000 feet, my oxygen dropped dramatically to 86%. So they said I would not be certified to go on an airplane that flies at about 8,000 feet, and that if I were wanting to go to Santa Fe, I would have to be on portable oxygen the moment I landed in Santa Fe. And throughout my whole trip to Santa Fe, I would have to have portable oxygen through a cannula in my nose, and this really devastated me. I talked to my pulmonary doctor, and he said that I could qualify for a portable oxygen device made by Inogen, which would fit in a small, like a side purse. And I could use that, but it would take a long time for me to get it. So I was, as I say, crushed that I could not go to Santa Fe. I haven't been to my home there for almost 2 years because of COVID and then because of my surgery and chemotherapy. And so I decided, okay, what can I do? I need to deal with the emotional impact that having cancer has had on me and my body, and remove the negativity from my body and make room for new experiences and joy, and really step into the next phase of my life. So what I'm focusing on here is my second art therapy project that is based on 2 dreams that I had. In the first dream, it showed me going to my oncology clinic, chemotherapy sessions, riding on a bicycle. Not driving a car like an adult would, but like a younger version of myself. I had regressed back psychologically. And in the back of my bicycle, I had my inner children, which I will tell you about in another video. This is Tomboy Judy and the little Precious Charles Precious and little Annie. These are representations of part of myself as I was growing up that had trauma at all of those ages. So apparently, when I went to oncology, these children would normally be riding in the back cart. I would park them outside and I would go into the oncology clinic. And this, the gray represents the parking structure that you have to park in when you go to these appointments. So that was one part of my dream. In this particular dream, I had come out of the clinic and gotten on my bike and had forgotten to see if the children were in the back. And so I drove out of the parking structure and I looked back and I noticed there were no children. And the dream showed me that the children were hiding under a tarp. And that I was kind of so freaked out from my chemotherapy sessions that I didn't even remember to check if they were safe and sound. So that's what all of this is about. The second part of my dream represented me being at the edge of something, and there was a big earthquake. And as I looked down, I could see that there was a stable platform that I could step onto. So I had one long leg extending down to the future, and this other shorter leg was on the ground that I had been on all the months, the 5 months that I was on chemotherapy. And the colors are very interesting here because gray is kind of a depressed color. The green that I'm stepping down to is the new life that I was going to be starting after chemotherapy. And if you can look at the expression on my face, I was pretty scared. I didn't know what my life was going to be like after chemotherapy. No more doctor appointments. And in the drawing of myself at this new phase, I show my lungs that have the blood clots. And I show the scars from my surgery. The large incision where they had to go in and pull out the pancreas, the spleen, and the lymph nodes. And these other scars, there were a total of, the large one, 2, 3, 4, 5, where they put probes in to do various things during the surgery. So this is the me that survived all the medical interventions, that was going to be moving down to new life. And you see my expression is that I'm kind of in shock and kind of sad and don't know what the future is going to hold for me. So that is the starting point of what I've been going through. And I wanted to tell you about some of those transitions. I had to deal with my disappointment that I was not going to be able to go to Santa Fe. And in fact, I had already come to the realization that I would not have been able, even if I didn't have the blood clots, psychologically and emotionally, I would not have been able to drive 2 days to Santa Fe, driving the first day to Flagstaff, Arizona, and the second day through Gallup and Albuquerque up to Santa Fe. I knew I couldn't do that, and that the only way I could get there would be to fly. I just was kind of an emotional and physical basket case. So that was one sadness I had to deal with. The other was realizing that I had kind of shrunk in psychological stature during that nearly year of surgery and treatment, where I didn't feel like my robust, fearless self, but this sort of diminished person, like is represented. This is clearly not me at my chronological age, and that I was kind of operating less strong, less confident than I had been before my cancer diagnosis and all the things that happened to me. I decided that I would just try to come up with new things that would interest me, since I was landlocked in Santa Monica. And I took up acrylic painting, which I had been wanting to do for years, and did these art therapy renditions to go into my unconscious and find out what had happened to me in terms of my psychosocial, emotional functioning. And I had to say, well, yes, I don't believe that anyone anywhere in the world goes through cancer, diagnosis, surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, and comes out the other end right away as robust as they were prior. So I had to really learn to love myself and be okay with that. It was okay that I had been frightened. It was okay that I didn't feel as confident. You have to realize that my cancer experience occurred at the same time as COVID. So I had already lived in a diminished capacity, as everyone around the world, the first year, 2019. And by the time I had my surgery and treatment in 2020 and 2021, it was like a double whammy. So I hadn't driven, I hadn't been really outside of my neighborhood in 2 years. And so I decided, well, if I can't go to Santa Fe, I need to go down to San Diego and see my son and my daughter-in-law and my granddaughter. I had not been able to see them because of COVID and the cancer stuff for 2 years. And I got my booster. I had 2 Pfizer vaccines in February and March. I got my booster recently, and I said, I'm going to drive down to San Diego and return to the home of people that I love and I have missed so dearly. They had come up to see me, but I had not been in their home, and I had not driven the 2-hour drive for 2 years. So I made the reservation with them. I was looking forward to it, and a couple of days before I was going to make the drive, I felt this fear. I don't know if I can make the drive. I don't know if I'm emotionally sound enough, strong enough to make that drive. So I listened to the fact that I felt afraid. I shared that information with my son, and I said, I'll be damned if I'm going to let cancer and my experience keep me a diminished person. I'm afraid to drive, but I am very clear that I am going to drive. I just needed to share the feeling with you, and I'm going to go. So I'm happy to report that I had a wonderful, wonderful time in San Diego. As soon as I got off the on-ramp and into the traffic, I wasn't in the slow lane. I moved right into the fast lane that I have always taken before. And in a matter of seconds, it was like, I'm back. I'm the same person. I find it a fascinating drive down to San Diego. I take the toll road, which I reach in an hour, and then it's an hour from there to San Diego. And I loved feeling myself as a full-grown adult, capable, same personality I've always had. I'm a smart driver. I like to watch the other lanes and what's going on in them and decide when I need to pass, whatever. It was fun and it's wonderful. And today I am dressing as if I were in Santa Fe. This is the kind of clothing and jewelry that I wear in Santa Fe that most people do. It's all about Native American art. It's beautiful, greenish turquoise, my beautiful coral ring. I wear sleek fitting clothes, and I'm beginning to feel like a feminine woman again, not like a patient in the hospital, not like a person in comfy pants and top going to chemotherapy, but a full-blown, happy, radiant person. And I have another month to go before my full year since the beginning of my cancer journey and my surgery on October 23rd. Today is the end of September. I am on my 5th round of Eliquis. I We'll be going back for a second high altitude stimulation test the end of October, going for my CT scans on my chest and abdomen and pelvis the first week of November. I am praying that I'm cancer-free. I'm believing that I am cancer-free. I'm thankful to be alive. I'm thankful to have gone almost full circle. And I just want to share my joy and also hard times and challenges so that they might inspire other cancer patients, no matter if you're at the point of diagnosis or surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, going back to work after you've been off for nearly a year and frightened to face that. I want to tell you once again, I am with you. I love you. I'm sending you my love and peacefulness, and I will continue to reach out to you, and thank you to all my followers. God bless you.